Hello, and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for February of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening for you in February. I'd like to start with two of our favorite asteroid goddesses, Juno and Ceres, but most particularly with Ceres because she's doing the most interesting stuff this month. Here she is sitting on February 1st in your 7th house, Aries, in the sign of Libra. And what's interesting is that Ceres is going to go retrograde this month fairly quickly. By the 4th, she will have gone retrograde, no matter what your time zone is. And so she's going to bring us into a financial retrospection period, which she does about every year and a half or so for about 4 months at a time. And so Ceres is the goddess of things that connect us to the physical world, meaning our physical bodies, the food we put into them, and the money we make to sustain them. And so she is a goddess of good stewardship, taking care of our connection to the physical world by being on top of our finances and eating in ways that are right for our own body, and just, staying grounded in the physical world. So when she goes retrograde, it's about taking some time to retrospect and introspect and go back and fix some old aspects of your own physical and financial self-care that you haven't been getting right. In particular, because she's in Libra, there's very much the feel of rebalancing. So I'm calling this a financial rebalancing period. And I think that there's going to be a lot here about redesigning as well. That's a very Libran concept. So Ceres is traveling along through your 7th house and will be there all month, both direct and retrograde, in that sign of Libra. And so you're going to feel this coming down in your partnerships. Most particularly, this can be any kind of partnership, from a business partnership to a really close friendship, to a spousal relationship or a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And it can also pertain to consultants. Because this is in your 7th house instead of your 1st house, I'm thinking that you may hire consultants to talk with you about your finances. So this would be a really good time period to utilize for maybe talking with your tax preparer well in advance of doing your taxes this year, and cleaning up your procedures of how do you save your receipts? How do you notate your expenses? How do you keep your records so that when it comes time to prepare taxes, it'll be easier this year and in all the years in the future too. So that's a really good example of how to use this. You might also find yourself consulting with a dietitian or a nutritionist about how you eat. Maybe, getting into a better relationship with your body and its health and its care and maintenance. You might find, because Libra is so much about dialogue, you might find yourself assisting friends or partners with these kind of conversations too, and providing them with some mirroring. But my thought is that this is probably going to be something, where you get yourself a partner to think these through with somebody as a sounding board. So this financial rebalancing period is going to last from when it starts here in early February to early May. And it's just a really good time to bring good stewardship. Now, Juno is over here in your 1st house, traveling along through Aries. She's moving pretty fast, and but she is still going to be in this 1st house all month. She usually spends about 2 months passing through a house, even when she's going top speed. And I think Juno is not terrifically comfortable in Aries, but I do think that you're going to benefit a lot from this transit. Aries is not known for having a lot of tact. In fact, Aries can really suffer from foot and mouth disease. And so a transit of Juno through your first house can bring you some social graces and manners, and a focus on your community, your network, your web, the people around you that you have brought around you on purpose. And building on those relationships is a really good way to spend a Juno transit through your first house. Now, the first house is a house of embodiment too, as Julia has said many times before in our horoscopes. And so when Juno is here, you might find yourself embodying her archetype, which is to say, if you're in a partnership, like say you're married or you're in a business partnership, you might want to really be visible as that. You might want to really go out with your spouse and be like that married person on the arm of, somebody who has you there for their support, or, show up as a partner in your business. And another thing that you might find yourself doing, which again is a little bit unusual for an Aries type, you might find yourself doing a little matchmaking, introducing people in your life that you feel should know each other, hooking some folks up. That would not at all be surprising. Hey, Julia, what is up this month for the Aries of the world? I think you've got some news about Venus, Mercury, and Mars.
Oh, yes, indeedy. Well, Aries, let's begin with Venus because she rules our relationships, and relationships are something which are very important to everyone, I think. Now, Venus starts the month in your 12th house. The 12th house is the final house in the whole zodiac. It's a very hidden house. It's a very private house. And it's a house that can have a lot to do with compassion as well. So with Venus in this 12th house, at the beginning of the month, if you are currently in a relationship, this might be a time where you kind of want to seek seclusion with your partner. So this might not be the beginning of the month, might not be a time where you want to kind of go out to sort of bars or clubs or theaters, but where you might want to just stay in at home, or maybe go on a camping trip together, be out in the wilderness together. Anytime where you feel like it's just sort of you guys and the rest of the world is sort of shut away. That might be sort of the case with Venus in the 12th. For the single people out there, it might not be the best start to meeting new people with this cycle with Venus in the 12th. Later in the month, when Venus jumps into your first house, after February 19th, it's either the 19th or the 20th, depending on your time zone. When Venus comes into the first house, this is actually a great time for the single Aries to get out there and date. And that's because since the first house is the house of self, and Venus is a very charming, attractive, relationship-oriented planet. And as Jamie mentioned, Juno is in the first too. This is actually a wonderful time for meeting new people and a really great time for getting out there and dating. Now, with Venus in the first, people tend to be a little bit more charming. They tend to even look better. And so if you want to do anything to make yourself, beautify yourself in any way, whether that's getting your hair done, getting a facial, going shopping for new clothes, Venus in the first house is definitely the time to do it. And it's also a great transit if you just need some good headshots of yourself, or if you want to update your dating profile, like that is definitely the time for it. And if you're in a relationship with Venus in the first, this will be a time where your partner will view you as more attractive, more charming, more beautiful. So it's a good relationship transit either way. Then Mercury, the planet that rules your mind, starts the month in your 10th house. This is a career house. It has a lot to do with your public reputation, how you're known to other people. Mercury, wherever we have Mercury, is where we tend to be very preoccupied that month, where we're thinking a lot, where we get a lot of sort of mental activity. So with Mercury in the 10th for, the first 10, 11 days of the month, you're going to be spending a lot of time thinking about your career. Maybe you're wondering whether you're in the right career, or maybe you want to brush up your CV to apply to new jobs, or maybe you're doing work which is Mercury related, such as maybe doing more writing on your job, teaching on your job. Mercury can also rule buying and selling. It can also rule transportation and travel. If you do any of those ride shares as a gig, Mercury in the 10th house would be a good time for doing more of the sort of Uber types of gigs. And it can be a time where you might also be very concentrated on how others are perceiving you, your reputation, thinking about how you come across to others, whether you're going to get that scholarship or award, any kind of public recognition. Then on February 11th, Mercury moves into your 11th house. And this is a very social house. It rules your friends. It rules any groups you're a part of. So that could be unions, clubs, societies, gamer circles, teams, any time where you find yourself among a constellation of people. That's the 11th house. And it's a house of long-term goals. So, wishes, dreams, goals you have that take a number of years to be sort of realized, things that you worked towards over time. It's a very positive house in a lot of ways. And with Mercury in the 11th, from February 11th through the rest of the month, it could be, first of all, a time where you end up socializing a little bit more, where you're getting more, at least, communications from other people, maybe texts, phone calls, emails, friends reaching out. And it can be a time where you're really preoccupied and thinking about those long-term goals. Mercury can have a lot to do with strategizing and organizing and planning. So your mind will really be on your future for the rest of the month there. And then finally, I have a few more things to say about Mars. Mars is in your third house all month, and Mars has been in your third house for a number of months. So Mars is a little bit more challenging than Mercury or Venus, because Mars is known as a malefic planet. So it's got its frustrations and challenges with it, but also has a very positive, constructive side to it as well. And wherever we have Mars is where we feel energized, where we kind of where a lot of activity in our life takes place, but where we can also run into some frustrations and conflicts. So since Mars has been in your third for a long time now, the third house represents your siblings. It represents your neighborhood and neighbors. It represents also any sort of writing or education. It's also a house of learning too, as well as short trips and journeys. So that could also include your commute, or if you go to rent out an Airbnb for the weekend. Anytime you're not really getting into a plane, but let's say driving in your car somewhere, that's much more the third house. So Mars is finished with its big stressful cycle in this house. Thank goodness that finished up last month when Mars went direct around mid-January. And that you could have had a number of months where you were dealing with frustrations, conflicts, flare-ups, maybe with your siblings. Cousins are also ruled by the third. Maybe with your neighbors, or even within your neighborhood. Maybe there were challenges along the way, like really annoying construction work going on, or maybe really difficult commutes, lots of traffic, or problems with your car, for example. So now that Mars has been direct for a couple of weeks now and still remains direct this month, these frustrations and challenges will be a little bit mitigated. They won't be as challenging as when he's gone through his whole retrograde cycle, which was sort of the end of last year. But you still might find that you're maybe making a lot more sort of short journeys during this transit, because the third house can represent those short trips, like going around the neighborhood or going to your local park. And you might have more engagements also with your siblings too during this time period. But then next month, Mars is finally going to move out of this house and give you a break in all things third house related, which will be very exciting.
Yeah, it's so true. That Mars retrograde was really rough
Oh,
for a lot of people.
very
So
difficult,
great to
especially
be.
for the Aries, which is Mars ruled.
Yes, that's right. If you want to be frustrated, just be an Aries when Mars goes retrograde. So I got a couple of moons to report. The first one is on February 5th. It's the full moon in Leo right here, landing in your 5th house. And in the video that we made about it, which is you can find on our monthly forecast page at our website, pandorastrology.com, we're calling this moon you in the mirror of community because it is a full moon involving Leo and Aquarius, whereas Leo represents the individual and all of the ego that goes with that, and the charisma and the self-importance, and that is balanced against this sun in Aquarius. And Aries, your experiences do have a tendency to be rather pure and concentrated because most transits of a planet in a sign will fall in the same corresponding house. And so this moon in Leo in the 5th house, you might be feeling particularly egotistical during this moon, and your friends might be pushing back with a particular amount of, logic and distance against your egotism. So this is the sort of back and forth, push me, pull you that will go on during this moon. And in our video about it, we noted that Uranus, in squaring this sun-moon opposition, is bringing quite a bit of disruption and opportunities for insights into changes in behavior and feeling that might benefit you in the future. And so another title for this moon might be Take the Coaching, Please. Now, there is some wonderful support in this moon. Mars sextiles the moon and trines the sun. Juno and Chiron also trine the moon and sextile the sun. So really, it's a moon with more harmony than stress. And that Mars that Julia was talking about, traveling along through Gemini, happily having exited its shadow period and cooking along quite well, releasing those frustrations, but also really being ready to do some straight talk. This Mars is going to be really, really helpful, I think, in bringing any points home, any reflections that your friends may want to give you, or that you may want to give your friends, and helping there to be some balance there. Now, the second moon, actually, let me talk about the seasonal change. The sun is going to leave Aquarius and enter Pisces right about here, February 19th or 18th, depending on your time zone. Wherever the sun goes, I think it's a great idea to shine the light of your high quality attention. In this case, it's a little bit ironic or perhaps tongue-in-cheek for me to say that, because the sun is entering your 12th house, which is not a place that usually really appreciates attention. The 12th house is a house of the unconscious. It's a house of retreat and solitude and surrender. It's a house of dreams, fantasies, imagination, also spirituality, meditation, compassion, and giveaway. And so when the sun comes into this house, it can be a really good time to pull away, go into a state of retreat, and do some self-examination in private. And this is also really a signal that this year's mop-up period is about to begin. When the sun moves into Pisces and it gets to the point where it's 30 days before your own birthday, if you're a sun sign Aries, then you're entering your yearly mop-up period, which is a great time for reflecting, releasing, retrospecting, letting go, and getting ready for the new year to come in for yourself. So that's a really great way to spend your high quality attention photons while the sun is in the 12th house. Now on the 19th, really shortly after the sun enters into the 12th house, the moon joins it for a new moon in Pisces, which we are calling Birth Dreams Grounded in Logic. And this is a moon that has plenty of harmony and not a super big amount of stress. you can see that Saturn is here very close to the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon are in Pisces, occupying your 12th house together, and they form a lovely trine to the south node in Scorpio, an equally lovely sextile to the north node in Taurus. So it is a very dreamy moon, and new moons are about new beginnings. So thus the word birth. So a new moon in Pisces would certainly be about birthing dreams, birthing from your imagination, beginning the spark of something that can come to life in the darkness of the womb of imagination. Wow, that's a lot of metaphor packed into it. And that can flower into something great. But Saturn is here, and Saturn always says, you'd better make this something real, something with integrity, something with structure, something professional, something solid. Saturn is very earthy that way. Also, it's in Aquarius, and so it wants to bring that quality of logic, of intellectual rigor, of just really thinking this thing through. So Saturn is willing to allow that dreams can be birthed during this moon, but it does want to make sure that those dreams will be grounded in something logical, something actual, something that can be reified. The South Node in Scorpio is assisting this moon by allowing you to release and let go any old bad emotions or resentments or bitterness that might be polluting that womb of the imagination, so that the dreams that spring forth can be truly new and fresh and reborn. And the North Node in Taurus is actually supporting Saturn in a way, because they're both earthy in their nature. Taurus is very earthy. Saturn rules Capricorn, again, very earthy. So this North Node in Taurus has been whispering to us already for a year as it transits along Taurus. Hey, how about, letting go of old pains and just becoming more stable, Yeah. So this North Node is pulling for stabilization and again grounding those dreams. And because it's a harmonious connection to the moon and sun, well, it's likely to happen pretty smoothly, pretty comfortably. So this moon is pretty nice, and I think that it should find you, Aries, in whatever is your favorite place to meditate, your favorite place to dream. And you should start to dream up what you want your own next birthday year to be, if you are a sun sign Aries. And even if you're not, and Aries is in fact your rising sign, which I certainly recommend you watching the Aries horoscope if it's your rising sign. This is still a really good time to just dream up whatever is the next phase, and pour, all of the passion that you can into what you're manifesting in those dreams.
If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
Horoscopes are fun, but they're also really general. If you want to explore this month's themes more personally, we'd love to meet with you in a real live reading where you can gain powerful insights and learn what you need to make the big decisions in your career, family, or relationship. You'll find the link in the description below. Have a fantastic February, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.